Studies show that 80% of people fail to keep up with their New Year's resolutions by February. Many of us, however, can't afford to not keep up with our New Year's resolutions, particularly when they involve making changes to how we handle our finances. New Year's resolutions, such as breaking bad money habits, can lead to achieving personal goals that could put you in a better financial position by the end of 2023. Today, we're discussing bad money habits to break this year. Keep watching. You and Your Money starts now.
You and Your Money is brought to you by J.S. Johnson Insurance, the Insurance Commission of the Bahamas, 𝗪𝗓𝗪𝗧𝗛 Solutions, FOCAL, and Central Bank of the Bahamas.
Welcome to You and Your Money, everyone. Joining me today to shed light on bad money habits we need to break this year is personal financial planner Nathaniel Butler from 𝗪𝗓𝗪𝗧𝗛 Solutions. 𝗪𝗓𝗪𝗧𝗛 Solutions teaches clients how to budget, save, invest, and grow their money in any market. Nathaniel, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So the first bad habit I want to talk about is putting off paying real property tax and business taxes. Unfortunately, people have had this habit for years. Why is it important now to keep up with real property tax and business tax payments?
Well, to tell you the truth, never before the government has been put in a position where it needs the money. And as a result of it, it has really ramped up its compliance and revenue enhancement initiatives, meaning that if you don't pay, you find yourself in a situation where you may not be able to access the TCC, the Tax Compliance Certificate, or on a very extreme end, they can seize your assets and sell off your assets to recoup the funds. However, the good news is you can always go into the department and make a payment arrangement or access the relief mechanisms that are available for both of these taxes and the other taxes not mentioned as well.
You know, it's always difficult to have those kinds of hard conversations, especially if you may have been in arrears for quite some time. Now let's talk a little bit about making late payments on credit cards, loans, and other debt. How does this affect long-term financial goals?
Well, the sad reality in this country is the fact that we do have a large population of our society between the working class and the lower middle class who use revolving debt to live, essentially, to meet basic or survival needs, and even in some cases certain wants from their dependents, whether it's children or adults or parents. And so in this era where we have a credit bureau now, and you have to manage your debt levels appropriately and monitor it, it is critical, especially if you want to get a home at the end of the day, or especially if you need debt later on to probably start a business or take care of a medical expense, or last but not least, even fix up a home or get a car. So I would admonish persons to do everything in their power that even if you're using debt, make sure as best as you can, pay off the balance. And if you can't, make sure you meet that monthly payment on time.
Now, you made mention of the credit bureau. Now, is it just for the financial institutions that they're monitoring, or is it utility payments? What is it that they're actually monitoring?
So they're watching your debt levels, and in addition to that, your payments. So there's a select group of entities that they're monitoring the payments, such as, and not limited to, the banks, the financial institutions that you mentioned, the credit unions that you mentioned, and also the utility companies as well. But here's the most important thing that persons need to understand. In order for you to have good credit, you have to make these payments on a timely basis. I know there's not a whole lot said about the credit bureau, but I'm telling you, when it's time to get a home or later down the road, some employers may start to ask about what your credit score is, or even landlords may even ask, what is your credit score? This is when you really see the full impact of our credit bureau system.
We definitely have to make sure that we're preparing for the future. Now let's talk about using the wrong accounts for savings. Can you explain this?
Oh, this is a very common one. You know, we have over $2 billion inside the banks. And you know, the common cry a lot of persons would say to me, or say in general, in financial seminars, oh, the financial institutions are not giving us enough in interest rates. Well, you got to remember now, the purpose of those accounts are not to provide you with a heavy or healthy interest. What you need to look to is places like the investment houses. I won't call their names, but the reality of it, we have several investment houses which will give you access to mutual funds, which can earn you anywhere from as low as 4 to 5% to the high end as 18%. And they're all regulated.
Now, you touched on having to invest as opposed to thinking about the savings account. What about having to invest in things that you don't understand? How common would you say this is?
Oh, extremely common. See, sometimes the product that you're investing in is not bad, but if you lack the understanding on how it is used and how the money can grow or how it can provide you return on investment, this is where you find yourself in hot water. And I would tell persons all the time that if you're going into any industry or you're going to invest in any of what I call the big five, which is real estate, securities, micro private equity, digital assets, and last but not least, intellectual property. If you're going to invest in any one of those areas, just make sure you have the appropriate level of knowledge, know-how, and understand the risks that are involved, and more importantly, the return on investment. It is critical.
When we think about having the return on investment, it's definitely one of those things that many persons are interested in more and more, even now with a lot of things that's happening globally. Now, let's talk a little bit about overspending on non-essentials. What are some of those examples of non-essential purchases?
Well, you know, the more common ones is basically the whole eating out, right? We are to a point now that we've moved so far away from cooking Monday to Sunday, and it's easier now because, you know, through all of the technology that is made available, it's so much easier to eat out than it is to prepare a meal. And let's be real, we are living in times where there are high inflation rates. And so even when you consider a lot of the other non-essential items, it's just easier to find yourself just by a click of a button, food showing up at your doorstep, clothes showing up at your doorstep, which you really may not need, or even electronic or consumable products just showing up at your doorstep. And in these times, I can't say it enough, sometimes income may not be enough, so we can't take the cash flow or the little bit of savings that we have to buy things that we don't need.
Even when you think about having to talk about the whole eating out every single day, I know oftentimes people take for granted the fact that you can actually pack your lunch, take it to work the next day, as opposed to having to jump in the car, use that extra gas to actually go to, and you're using up time as well. So those are some of the practical things. Are there any other practical things that they can use to help them along the way?
No, there are a number of things. I would say it's good for persons, especially on the area of food, that sometimes we might have to just come together and we might have to buy in bulk. Use the purchasing power of the collective, because we're just living in times where prices are high. And that's the reality. And you just don't have enough to meet the demands that we once were able to meet 4 or 5 years ago, as easy as we are.
I like that you're talking about pooling your resources, coming together, and being able to do it in bulk, doing the wholesale purchases. Let's talk a little bit about using the out-of-network ATMs that do not belong to your bank.
Yes.
Let's talk about how this eats into the income.
Well, remember now, most of the financial institutions make a lot of their money off of the fees, right? And so sometimes persons find it more convenient if you're not at your traditional bank and you're in need of cash, and you just go to the most available ATM, you know. I just have to remind persons that sometimes because we don't see it or we don't feel it in that moment, but when you look at your online statement or if you get your monthly statement at the end of the month, you will see how those fees will begin to add up and add up and add up. And some financial institutions today even charge you when you make deposits over the counter. So all of these things, you have to be mindful and be smarter in how you handle your money.
It's not just about trying to find ways to increase the income, but it's also about finding ways to reduce your expenses. Nathaniel, we have to take a quick break, but we have a lot more bad money habits to cover when we get back. You're watching You and Your Money. We'll be right back.
Samantha's always on point. She doesn't miss a thing. When she signs up for any insurance policy, she reads all the fine print. She knows what's covered, what's not covered, and she's aware of her deductibles. When it comes to insurance, it pays to know your policy. Review every insurance policy so you know what you're covered for. This message was brought to you by the Insurance Commission of the Bahamas.
With the help of our authorized financial institutions, or AFIs, using sand dollars is as easy as 1, 2, 3.
Step 1. Identify your preferred AFI by browsing their websites or contacting them directly. Step 2. Download the free mobile application from Google Play or the Apple Store and then register for a sand dollar account. Step 3. Load money onto your mobile app and begin sending and receiving sand dollars or purchasing and selling goods and services.
We are pleased to be
your central bank approved
digital wallet providers.
It does not matter
which of us you choose.
You can pay for goods and services
wherever sand dollar is accepted.
We are all in this together.
Visit sanddollar.bs for more information.
You are invited to the 32nd Annual Bahamas Business Outlook on Thursday, January 19th at the Baha Convention Center with keynote speaker Prime Minister the Right Honorable Philip Davis. A diverse slate of speakers from various industries will address the theme Forward, Upward, Onward Together in celebration of the nation's 50th year of independence. Register now at tclevents.com to attend. Don't miss Bahamas Business Outlook, January 19th.
Since 1967, Freeport Oil Company Limited has been dedicated to fueling growth and prosperity in the Bahamas. We have been a constant pillar within the country, striving to invest and support our community through the best of times and the worst of times. For us, Full Call represents 21 years of strength and consistency, consistent leadership, consistent growth, consistent customer service. Through it all, we are resilient. Full Call, fueling growth for people.
Throughout our lifetime, we must all make decisions. No matter how we choose, the right one just needs to be made. Like having J.S. Johnson Insurance Agents and Brokers as your insurance partner. We've been serving the Bahamas for over 100 years. Whether you need home, motor, marine, or commercial insurance, make the right decision. Call 397-2100 or visit jsjohnson.com.
J.S. Johnson Insurance, peace of mind.
Welcome back to You and Your Money. Today we're discussing bad money habits to break this year. If you're just now tuning in, personal financial planner Nathaniel Butler from 𝗪𝗓𝗪 Solutions is here to educate us. 𝗪𝗓𝗪 Solutions teaches clients how to budget, save, invest, and grow their money in any market. Nathaniel, talk about the bad habit of relying on one source of income.
Well, I would say that we are 2 years, or in some cases 1 year removed from the effects of the pandemic. A lot of persons lost their job, or their job was suspended, or their income was suspended. And when you're relying on one income and that's taken away from you, or even if it remains, but prices around you start to escalate from renting or mortgage to the food and medical supplies and even school fee and basic goods, as they begin to rise and you have that one income, you find that just the lifestyle that you are so accustomed to will no longer be affordable. So what should persons do? Well, depending on the age and depending on the health, I would say that you may have to potentially look at side hustles or part-time jobs. In addition to that, for those who are a little bit older in age and may not have that energy, you may have to look at potentially downsizing, living with family members, or living with the necessary assistance that is needed. Now, of course, all of this comes with a cost. And I would always say that you have to look around you and utilize the talents or the giftings or the resources around you and leverage them to the best of your ability and to the best of your knowledge.
An increase in income often leads to an increase in one's standard of living, which can mean more expenses. This is referred to as lifestyle inflation. So explain the concept of lifestyle inflation and why it's a bad thing.
So, it's so common here that if somebody was to get a raise or if they were to leave a job to go to another job with a higher pay, within the first 2 months, they feel that extra money, and then shortly thereafter, they are not able to tell you where did the extra money go. And it's simply because when we're not conscious of how we're spending it, sometimes it just gets wrapped up into what we would deem to be necessities, or sometimes just wants, and we turn those wants into necessities. And as a result of it, no matter how much money you make, you find yourself still back at the same point where you're just struggling, or it's just in survival mode. You just don't have enough savings. All because the extra money that you have, you never put it to use where it could kind of gain you more money or even prepare for your retirement later down the road. You take it and it's usually used in some form of consumable product or service that is needed for that moment. You know what is so interesting? I heard a quote the other day which once said that rich people prepare for 3 generations. Poor people just prepare for the weekend.
Another bad money habit people have is skimping on auto and property maintenance. Explain why spending money on auto and property maintenance can help save money in the long run.
Well, any asset that you're going to acquire in this life may potentially need some form of maintenance, and the lack thereof will cost you more in the long run. Talk to any property owner or talk to anybody who have a car. If you don't service them on time or provide the necessary maintenance on time for the home, you find yourself paying so much more in the long run. And in most cases, you find that you just don't have enough money when you can't no longer kick that can down the road. At some point in time, you have to pick the can up. And I would encourage persons that if you are in a situation and you know that the car is on its last leg or the home needs major structural upgrades, I would say work out a plan. Work on what you can work on within the time frame that you can work on it, and eventually you'll find that you'll get it done.
One of those things that I learned from my mom, it's really having to take some of those little bite sizes. If you have some windows you want to change out, you do not have to change all the windows all at once. You can take it in sections. A lot of people last year said that they were going to sign up for NHI, but they didn't. Talk about why signing up for primary care plan with NHI should be a New Year's resolution that people stick with this year.
No, I will tell you, the older you get, you find yourself having health challenges, or you might just want to check in now and then. And one of the greatest costs here in this country is healthcare. And believe it or not, a lot of persons are not even aware that the government has made available primary care through the program or the institution NHI, the National Health Insurance. And I would admonish persons to go out, get registered, get signed up so you could have your daily check-ins. One of the greatest cries for persons who are retired is their health care. And you find that many of them cannot afford to carry their health insurance, for those who do have it, the health and medical insurance, into their retirement. And this is why NHI, the primary care program that they have available, is extremely important. How many times you look when it's payday time or at the end of the month, you find persons passing out cards for stakeouts just to raise enough money for persons to get checked out to see whether it's cancer related or muscular related or whatever the situation may be. So I would advise persons, let's not wait until we have those type of crises. Let's get the primary care. Let's talk to our physician on a regular basis, and so that we can be empowered to know where we stand in regards to our health.
Talk about the bad habit of not planning for retirement. When should people start planning, and what should planning for retirement entail?
It's amazing. Companies normally invite me in to talk to their retirees when they are 6 months out, maybe a year out, or even just 2 weeks out from retirement. And I would always raise the point, you should start planning for retirement when you get your first paycheck on your first full-time job. Because the reality of it is, if you live long enough, you will retire. The next problem I see in this issue of retirement is the age of retirement here in the country is between the ages of 60 to 65. But when you look at how long we live here, We go all the way up to about 74 to 76 for men, and women could go all the way up to about 78. So you have almost close to 15 years after retirement that you have to live off of that reduced income if you have prepared for retirement. And for those who have not prepared for retirement, NIB has a scheme which allows them to receive somewhere around $300 every month. Now you can imagine all of the bills and expenses that you had prior to retirement, they're still there. In some cases, some of it may be reduced to a small extent, but your income is not the same or non-existent. And so this is why retirement is so important, and you have to start as early as you can. If you're 10 years out, if you're 5 years out, you need to put yourself in a position that you can retire. A lot of people can't retire in this country simply because not every company offers pension plans, believe it or not. And so retirement is your responsibility. It's not your employer's responsibility. If they have pension plans, I would say access it. I can't tell you how many persons who work to companies who have pension plans and they opt out of it simply because they don't understand. So I would admit, if you can, get a pension plan, start putting aside something out of your paycheck every single pay period, and eventually, when that time comes, you can embrace retirement with full joy and excitement. Also, another thing we also have to be mindful of, in retirement, the big three expenses a person may have to face. One, if they have a home, the renovation of that home in retirement. Two, they may have children or dependents that are off to school. And three, healthcare expenses. And I forgot, I missed one important one. A lot of persons, not a lot, but good much persons in this country take their mortgage into retirement. I would say if you can, try to pay that off because you don't want that headache of your mortgage going into retirement. This is one of the reasons why a lot of people stay on the job or they find other jobs, and nothing is wrong with that. If you're in that situation, I would encourage you to continue to do that. But the most important thing is retirement is something that is about to approach, and is the best way to handle it is to prepare for it.
Nathaniel, thank you for giving us those tips on retirement. We need to take another break. We'll continue when we get back. This is You and Your Money. We'll be right back.
Throughout our lifetime, we must all make decisions. No matter how we choose, the right one just needs to be made. Like having J.S. Johnson Insurance Agents and Brokers as your insurance partner. We've been serving the Bahamas for over 100 years. Whether you need home, motor, marine, or commercial insurance, make the right decision. Call 397-2100 or visit jsjohnson.com.
J.S. Johnson Insurance, peace of mind.
Since 1967, Freeport Oil Company Limited has been dedicated to fueling growth and prosperity in the Bahamas. We have been a constant pillar within the country, striving to invest and support our community through the best of times and the worst of times. For us, Føl represents 21 years of strength and consistency, consistent leadership, consistent growth, consistent customer service. Through it all, we are resilient. Føl, fueling growth for people.
You are invited to the 32nd Annual Bahamas Business Outlook on Thursday, January 19th at the Baha Convention Center with keynote speaker Prime Minister the Right Honorable Philip Davis. A diverse slate of speakers from various industries will address the theme Forward, Upward, Onward Together in celebration of the nation's 50th year of independence. Register now at tclevents.com to attend. Don't miss Bahamas Business Outlook, January 19th.
Samantha's always on point. She doesn't miss a thing. When she signs up for any insurance policy, she reads all the fine print. She knows what's covered, what's not covered, and she's aware of her deductibles. When it comes to insurance, it pays to know your policy. Review every insurance policy so you know what you're covered for. This message was brought to you by the Insurance Commission of the Bahamas.
Welcome back to You and Your Money. Nathaniel Butler, personal financial planner from 𝗪𝗓 Solutions, is still with us. We've been talking about bad money habits to break this year. We've covered a lot of bad habits. They're all up on the screen. You may want to screenshot it or take a photo so that you can include getting rid of some of these poor financial habits as a part of your New Year's resolutions. Nathaniel, let's go back to the basics. A major bad money habit many of us need to break this year is spending money without a budget. Talk about the importance of having a budget and sticking to it.
You know, it's amazing, you know, when you have the conversation about a budget, everybody agrees with it, but most persons don't even know how to prepare one. You ask the question, well, where did you learn to budget? Well, most persons never learn it because those who they grew up with never budgeted. Now, that's not the case for everyone, but there is a large majority of persons who have never seen a person put together a personal budget. And so I just want to walk you through that very quickly. The first thing you need to do, and it's simple, plan budgets around your pay period. So if you're paid on a weekly basis, you need a weekly budget. If you're paid on a bi-weekly basis, you need a bi-weekly budget. And if you're paid on a monthly basis, you need a monthly budget. The first thing you do, you write down what is your total net spendable income. That's the money you take home. You know what's amazing, Ria? A lot of persons know what they make, but not everybody knows what they take home. After all the deductions from the job, most people are not aware of what that number is. And so we're going to use whatever that number is, and we're going to just write that down on a piece of paper or in an app, or you could put it in an Excel spreadsheet. Once that is done, the next step is to write down all of your expenses. And the reason why writing it down is so important is because most people will tell me, I have a mental budget. And they are cognizant of the items that stand out most in their mind, but they're not cognizant of all of the other items that go under the radar. And at the end of the month, they try to figure out, well, why I only have so much money? Well, you forgot those other items. So once you write down what your total income is, you start to write down all of your utility expenses. And then you move down to your food expenses, your shelter, transportation, and the list goes on and on and on and on. And the goal of that is to make sure that every dollar is accounted for. The most important category, I would say, based on our conversation today, is the savings. So before you spend any money, take out your savings first and spend the rest.
You mentioned take out your savings first and spend the rest. How do we even know how much to put in the savings?
That's a good point. So I would say for someone who knows that they're living paycheck to paycheck, right? The first thing that they want to do is somewhere, if you're more somebody who's disciplined and can do the percentage base, you should be saving anywhere between 10 to 25% of your income. And that saving goes into different categories, whether it be for retirement, whether it be to build up your emergency fund, saving for vacation, or whatever the case may be. But for others who may not have that necessary discipline, I would admonish you to make sure you have at least about $1,500. Take the next 90 days. March 31st to make sure that you're able to save up at least a minimum of about $1,500, and you put that into an account where you have access to it, but not too much access to it to the point where you spend that as well. And then after that is done, you start to work on your expenses. Try to reduce where you can, try to increase income where you can. And the extra that you have, you now give that an assignment, whether it's, like I said, retirement, whether it's for extra savings, whether it's a big ticket item that you're working on, whatever your focus is. But more importantly, attach your savings to whatever your life goals are. Many persons have New Year's resolutions, and most New Year's resolutions have a cost. And so this is the purpose of our savings. We want to ensure that whatever goal we set, we accomplish it. And that can only be done through savings.
Nathaniel, you truly gave us some great tips on dealing with these bad money habits. Thank you so much for coming on the show. How can our listening audience get in touch with you?
So if you want to reach out to us, myself or my team, you could go on our website, which is 𝗪𝗓𝗪solutions.com, or you can call us at 427-8025. That's 427-8025.
Okay, that's it for today's show. Don't forget to follow You and Your Money on Facebook and tune in next week for a brand new episode. I'm Ria Christina. Thanks for watching.